Welcome to Get Lean in 5 minutes. It's basically like 6-minute abs, except it's leaner, it's faster, and it's about product development and not ab development. The Lean Startup Framework and being lean is the de facto framework that startups today use to test and grow their startup businesses. So the term lean as you know it comes from this book and is written by a man named Eric Ries. The name actually comes from lean manufacturing, something that Toyota did. Basically meant that they tried to make a very simplified process of manufacturing. The lean startup version obviously is for startups. Now, what is the book all about? It's about a framework and a way of thinking that can mitigate your risks going forward as you pursue your startup and increase the likelihood of finding an idea or a feature or a product that sticks. Now, the first thing that Lean wants you to know is that when you go out there and launch your business idea, you're launching into 100% unknown, absolute uncertainty. Now you might think, well, I have talked to my mom about this idea and she said it was great. Also, my best friend said it was great and I read Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. Now this is where the vast majority of people are wrong, and it's the first lesson we learn from Lean. In order to know whether or not your idea is any good, you have to get out there and test it. Get out of the building, as they call it. If you're just sitting here right now thinking about your idea in your head, it's just that, it's just your head. Even if you think you know your customers, know your market, and you know how they're gonna respond, you actually don't. You do not know for a fact. When we're in the shower, when we're thinking about our idea, boy, does it sound brilliant. But the reality is that most of our ideas are actually terrible. What the great Eric Ries is actually trying to say is that the only way an idea can improve and gain legs is by achieving what we call validated learning. Validated learning is learning that we know is true because we've tested it, whereas learning itself, we don't know if it's true because it's not tested. You can research all day long, reading primary and secondary reports, but how do you know for 100% fact whether or not someone in a buying type situation is going to buy what you're gonna try to sell? Now, the best way of getting that validated learning that we so crave in the Lean Startup Framework is by building MVP experiments, which are basically miniature versions of your first product that we push out rapidly with a minimum amount of time and effort just to see how customers react. Why is it that we have to do it quickly? Well, because when you run an MVP experiment, there's really only one of two things that can happen. One, your idea is validated and you get some really great information about how to improve it, or two, it just straight up fails and you find out that no, people are not interested in your product, at least in this current version. So if you spend a month making an MVP, you push it out there and you find out that nobody actually wants what you're trying to sell, it took you a month to figure that out. That's one data point, basically. But if you took a week to make an MVP, you could have tested 4 different ideas within the same time frame that it took you to test that first one. More tests means more data, which means more validated learning. Now, because it's only that binary outcome, you either succeed or you fail, you might as well fail as quickly as you can, because any time spent up until that point that wasn't absolutely necessary was entirely a waste of time. Hence why we call it lean. We cut out everything that is not necessary in order to figure out whether or not our idea is any good. It's a way of minimizing the effort, resources, and time it takes to figure out whether or not your product should even be built in the first place. And the motto is, and I love this, stop building things that people do not want. For those of you out there that knew Lean, well, that was a refresher. And if you didn't know Lean, look at how much time I just saved you.